Welcome to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
This is Megan.
And on this episode, we dive back into the darkness.
Yeah, this one was actually my idea to do. I normally am like meh, not meh, but like just, I don't know. I kind of like to cover other subjects other than demonic possessions. But this one in particular, because, you know, like when you hear about demonic possessions, I feel like the UK gets talked about a lot with their kind of stuff. Obviously in America, we have some. But like you don't really hear, and that's one of the goals I have for 2024 is to cover more of areas that don't get talked about with possession cases or with haunted locations in general. Because we always kind of think, oh, in America we got these big bad locations, but all over the world, there is some insane stuff that happens paranormal wise. And so I had just been looking up different stories and unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. And this had came up because I had been told stories. My grandmother has a friend that's from the Philippines. And she was telling me, yeah, like paranormal stuff it's taboo a little bit over there, but there's like a lot of crazy stuff like in witchcraft and all that stuff that happens over there. And I just so happened to stumble upon this one as well, and I was like, oh wow, it's the Philippines in the 1950s. So
yeah, this is all about the possession
of Clarita Villanueva.
Yeah. Yes. Interesting fact to those who don't know, Filipinos and the rest of the Latino race all share same continuity, I guess, as we describe it. They're half Spaniard, like the rest of us, because Spaniards conquered the Philippines as they did Mexico and majority of the South American countries. That's why we all speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the lady that my grandmother is friends with, her name is Adele. And she talks about that all the time. She says even like there's certain foods that they have that are similar, and then there's certain words that they have that are similar to Spanish as well.
Yeah. Just so everybody... Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, well, a little fact for you.
Yeah.
But we thought we were talking on a possession case, because this one kind of gets, not say swept underneath the rug, but when it comes to famous possession cases, it's not on top of the list. But it did gain just as much publicity as any other out there for its time.
Yes.
Now, Clarita had a very tragic beginnings of her life. At a young age, her father was never around or died. Never really gave a specification of what happened to her dad. But her mom was either a psychic medium by trade or she was a real psychic medium. However, Clarita always says that she always witnessed her mother laughing at customers after they would leave and making fun of them as they weren't there anymore, which kind of hinted the fact that she might have been a charlatan, like she perceived herself as a psychic medium doing seances and crystal ball stuff. But her mother passed away when she was only 12. And with no family and no immediate people to take care of her, she basically was thrown to the streets. And this is the 1950s, mind you.
Yeah.
And the Philippines. So she resorted to prostitution in order to survive. And then around the age of 18,
she went looking for her father.
See, I didn't read that part.
See, that's where
there's a lot of information.
Yeah, because how Isaac researches is he listens mainly to podcasts, other podcasts.
Hey. Don't tell people how the sausage is made.
And I tend to go to like the documentaries and like the...
I read things, I look at other podcasts, I listen to other things, stuff like that. I get different people's perspectives to understand the entire story.
Yes. But I will say different articles, they have around about the same overall story, but it just varies in different things. Like there's probably some articles that say Clarita's father died. But in the articles that I read, when she was 18, she went looking for him. And then there's another article that says basically which is the article or story you're telling, which is...
Well, when she had a boyfriend, she moved to, what was the city she moved to?
Manila.
But she found out her boyfriend had a wife. So she was kind of like, oh crap, and then like, I can't be with you anymore. So she was like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? So she did what she did. She knew. She became an exotic dancer for a couple years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she basically, you know, like did that kind of stuff to survive, and she made the mistake of soliciting herself to. She thought it was just a random guy, but it was like a police officer, and so then she got put in jail, and that's where this story kind of takes a wrong turn.
Yes. And when it comes to possession cases, hers was, and I say unique, but it did gain. See, I combine words in my head. It gained a lot of publicity for its time. Newspapers around the world and stuff like that, they knew about her, or at least knew about the case that was happening. But what was the prison that she went to? If you ever go to the Philippines, I definitely want to try to investigate that location.
Yeah, the prison itself is like 300 years old.
It's like the Byzantine.
Yeah, and then
Byzantine prison. It's 300 years old, built by the Spaniards, used for torturous things back then in the Spanish acquisitions. And then the Americans and the Filipinos used it as well, and didn't really treat people that well inside.
Yeah, so you could just imagine before she probably even like staying there was I know some articles talked about like her and other cellmates that were female were hearing like activity, basically pebbles being thrown, weird stuff kind of happening. So there was some sort of paranormal activity that took place before she actually got possessed.
I don't know, it was possessed. I think it was oppressed.
Oppressed, yeah. I guess it was. I guess you could say it was more oppressed than possessed. But the part that, well, here, go on with the story because I don't want to jump ahead.
While in the prison, she started receiving bite marks all over her body. Granted, there was no one else in her cell, and she started screaming and crying out. And doctors, the guards went to see what was going wrong, to see her that she was all these bite marks, and she was bleeding from these bite marks on her body. And he had no idea where they're coming from. So the doctors started examining her, and they couldn't figure out why she was being received that way. But while in, I guess it was the how do you call it, the prison hospital?
What is the prison hospital?
I forgot what it's called.
Is it called? Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
You've never been to jail before, so try to remember the damn name of it.
Hold on, the prison
Informatory.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Regardless, the prison hospital.
Yes.
She was examined for a while, and then to come to find out, she described what was attacking her was two creatures. One a monstrous in the size, she called a monster. How she described it is
the thing, yeah. Sure.
It's something smaller, like a goblin kind of thing, which always goes to my theory, or not my theory. What I've come to find out is that demons always come in three. There's always three of them. There's one in charge, and there's two minions. But she only ever saw two. She described the big one is the skin was black, and it was hairy, had horns, had sharp fang teeth, and, well, two sharp fang teeth that came down past his jaw, and then the rest were she described as buck teeth surrounding the entire area around the mouth. Same goes for the smaller creature, too, which described how she described it was exactly how the bite marks looked all over her body. So she was matching them up exactly. But the smaller one, she described as a goblin, would crawl on her back and bite her on her, I guess, the softer parts of her flesh, like her back and the back of her legs and stuff like that. And that's how they knew these weren't self-inflicted, because there were parts of her body that she could never, ever even try to attempt to bite. So that kind of got ruled out real quick. So they thought maybe someone was attacking her. That's why they kept her in the reformatory for a while. But she still received them. And they even witnessed the marks appearing on her body out of nowhere, and they couldn't figure out what's going on.
Yeah, like there was some articles that even just said that moistness around the bite marks, like someone had just done it. And one of the things too that they were talking about is the fact she would lose consciousness, right? She would like black out every now and then lose consciousness. And I always go back to there was one person that we knew that had to get exorcised, and I remember a long time ago I had shown her, because I had like this random like vision of this place, and I remember showing her, And she goes, oh, that kind of looks like when I would lose consciousness. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, you know, like when you dream, right? When you dream and you go into like the astral plane, the realm, whatever you want to say, like dream world. She goes, that's exactly how it was like when I would lose consciousness according to other people. I didn't know I was losing consciousness. I thought I was asleep. I was awake one minute and then asleep, like I had dozed off. But other people had said, no, I had blacked out and I was still awake, but I was essentially, I had solid black eyes and I was doing things that obviously weren't myself. So she was saying, yeah, like when basically whatever the thing that was demonically attached to her came through, and basically had control over her vessel, it was like she was lost consciousness and was in dream world, apparently. But she says it's not a dream world like the nice side of the astral plane. She says it's like burnt ash and lava and like smells bad, like foul, like sulfur there. And she said she would just literally sit there. And then she would come to and she would wake up and she was like, I had this weird dream and this and that. And they were like, no, you had solid black eyes and you were doing very strange shit. So I think that's interesting that she also, that was also said that she had lost consciousness.
Yeah. Now this caught the attention of local news and stuff like that. A reporter who came, witnessed this stuff, and he started sharing his story in articles and stuff like that, especially with the radio of the time telling this, and the news started spreading across the entire world. Even reports in the United States at the time, like the possession of Clarita going on in the Philippines. Granted, how many people actually believed it, who knows? But one of the doctors actually accused Clarita of making this all up. Like, you're just doing it for publicity. You just want to get famous for it. And she looked at him, and it was described that she looked at him with like pure hatred and said, "You will die." Right. I was scared of shit, everyone who's listening to it right now.
Fun fact, Isaac used to be a metal vocalist.
Yes. And the scary part is that he literally died the next day. And then everyone started accusing her of being a witch, putting curses on people, which in the Philippines, that would make sense. In the 50s, they would say that it's a coincidence, but they're a little more superstitious in the Philippines. So, yeah, they accused her of being a witch amongst the other travesties that she was being accused for as well. It was actually a little bit later, after witnessing these things, that a prison guard actually kicked her, and it was like hitting her because she wasn't complying with something after they put her back in her cell, and she looked at him and said, "You will die," again, and he ended up dying a week later. So two guards died and stuff like that, and they didn't know what to do. One of the doctors said, "We need to get an exorcism done," right? They're like, "We're medical professionals. We're not going to do that," right? He says, "Well, we got no other choices. We can't figure out what's wrong with her." So a reverend, what was the reverend?
Lester Sumrall. He was building. He was helping build basically like a temple area. He was doing work in the Philippines.
Yeah, so he was a foreigner for the time.
Yeah.
Got word of it, or they asked him, since he was only reverend in the area, he could perform the exorcism. They asked him, and he had to not sign a waiver, but they basically told him, like, dude, she's killed 2 people. She's injured a lot of other guards and stuff like that. We can't be liable for anything that happens to you. He's like, it's fine. So he goes in. They actually take her to a separate room where she didn't react to the guards or the doctors whatsoever. It was fine. But the second she saw the reverend, she fucking started screaming and growling at him, right? Mm-hmm. And he basically said, "I hate you." Right?
Yeah.
In probably a voice that sounds similar to mine, to the girls.
Yeah.
So, but she's basically yelling at him, "I hate you," and stuff like that, and throwing a fit, and realize, okay, this is we're dealing with something strong here. But they ended up performing the exorcism, and it took 3 days, right? And after 3 days, all of a sudden she was fine. She was smiling. She said they left. Actually, they left out the window by her words. And her bite marks disappeared. Granted, she was still incarcerated, but her possession was done.
Yeah. And she ended up having pretty regular life. She ended up getting out, marrying a guy, and having a family and everything else, and everything was good. So, yeah.
Now, let's dissect this.
Okay, dissection.
The story of Clarita is very short, right? From how it started, how it ended, and all the facts in between. There wasn't a lot of information of witnesses or anything like that. Not a lot of information was shared. Granted, it's the 50s in the Philippines, so I don't know how much information you're going to get.
I think it's interesting they didn't try to... Because you think about in the 50s, and I'm sure if it was in America, it was probably everywhere as well. You know, the whole, like, if anything is wrong with you in the asylum, like throwing you, locking you away in like a crazy house.
I wonder if this prison had its own asylum wing.
But that's what I didn't like. There were psychiatrists that tried evaluating her and tried getting something, but they were even stunned at the fact of the bite marks just showing up. So I just find it interesting that it was like in the 50s, and it was like for sure people were like, there is something something with this woman.
Well, luckily the doctors were not so narrow-minded with the idea of science and medicine that they decided to reach out to another form of healing, which was an exorcism. Right? In America, I guarantee at the time they might have not even attempted it, even with all the signs of the weird shit going on.
And I think that's another thing that we didn't mention at the beginning, but she only spoke Tagalog, which is what they speak in the Philippines. That's the name of their language. She only spoke that, but when she was possessed, she also was able to speak English
and Latin and several languages.
Yeah, and that's one of the telltale signs.
When you speak a language you have never learned. Yeah.
And I wonder if, because it was such a short, like almost oppression, because you know you hear stories and it's like months and a long time of like basically everything kind of like wearing you down. Even for people that are just like low vibrational, it still takes a while. So they didn't really say like, no, they did. I remember looking and the dates were relatively close that all of this happened. And I just find it interesting that it took so little like time for her to be oppressed. I mean, she did come from a bad background, so, I mean... That's
what I theorize on why she was chosen. If her mother was a real psychic, then she had it carried in her bloodline, making Clarita a possible psychic medium as well. If she was a charlatan, probably not. But she still had a very tragic life, a lot of trauma she's carried, right? Easy to be broken and beaten, and especially in a state of being bitten, right? Like, these demons like to bite. Which is strange because I've never heard of any other bite. I guarantee there is other bite cases, but not in this extent. Like it was all over her body. Like the demons enjoyed doing that to her, and it was her anguish and her pain is what fueled their addiction. Because I've always said that demons are what they want from you more than anything is your negative emotions. Your sadness, your anger, your trauma, everything negative emotion-wise. It's like a drug to them. They get extremely high off it. They feed on it. And the more and more you give them, the more and more they stay. And the ultimate thing is to fully possess you and basically drain you from the inside out. Taking control and then causing turmoil within the entire house. And then, they're feeding off everybody. Everybody's giving them something. And then when it's all said and done and the vessel dies, you move on to another. But that was the case with her, and I think that's where that demon was in that prison, probably picking and choosing, feeding off all the negative emotion, and they finally found someone like, ooh, I can attach to this one, and that's what he did. He attached to them and basically mildly possessed her.
Which I tried looking at because I really wanted to compare and see if there was anything regarding like jails and possessions, if there was more possession cases out there that evolved from jails. And there really wasn't. And I find that interesting. Like, I would think that it would be more because, you know, some of the people in there are as low vibrational as you can go.
Sorry for the interruption. I had to swap batteries because our recorder thing was drained.
Yes. So, I don't know what long story short, we've been having some weird stuff.
Today.
Just today in general. It's not anything bad. Obviously, we're protected and stuff like that, but it's...
So there's EVPs in this episode. Listen for them?
Yeah. Right. Who knows? Maybe. Something's been trying to get my attention all day.
What were you saying?
Oh, yeah. So you would think that like jails would have it because they're harbingers of negative stuff. Like you've got people that have killed people. You've got people that probably have dark attachments themselves in there. Just the amount of brutality that happens in prisons, you know?
Like I said, it takes the right kind of mind, the right kind of person to be oppressed. It has to be someone who's willing to give up their willpower.
Yeah, and when you think about it, maybe some of those criminals aren't willing to give up their willpower.
Now, they're scared, they're angry, right? Some are depressed, but none are willing to give the will. Not in the beginning, anyway.
Yeah.
And probably over time they are. But there has to be some reason why they had to choose as prisons. Not these times anymore.
Yeah.
Or maybe there is a lot of inmates getting possessed and they don't even know it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I looked, that was this one like spot that I specifically like wanted to look into because I was like that would be an interesting topic about like demonic possessions or oppressions, or not demonic necessarily, but like negative attachments as well, to see if like there's a correlation, you know, to jails and prisons, and why that would also make sense if like why a lot of jails are haunted. Like for instance, like the Eastern State Penitentiary. I mean,
also to like people dying in a location.
Yes.
Yeah. But with Clarita's case, that's why I believe she was chosen to be possessed, was the fact that she has a broken soul, you could say. Theorizing also the idea that it was already there. Now, was it an oppression case or was it a possession case?
I think it was oppression. I think it was still outside of her body. Maybe.
But then how did she speak with that?
That is true, and lose consciousness.
Yeah. So I'm thinking she was possessed.
Mm-hmm. But it was very mild.
Or it's just starting.
It just started, yeah.
Yeah. Because the bite marks were continuing as she was possessed, as these things were like marking their territory.
I just find it interesting. So in that prison, as dark as it is, it was only those two things. That doesn't make sense to me.
Let's just have to give him 3. There might have been one of them missing. Maybe the other one that was missing was the one that was doing the killing. Right? Because she cursed apparently 2 people and they both died. Was it by coincidence? I don't know. I can't really say that. But the fact that they died after her saying that, either she predicted it was going to happen and she chose those 2 people, but both those 2 people were
people that tried helping.
No,
not helping. But
the doctor said, "You're making this shit up."
Oh,
and the guard was basically kicked her.
Oh yeah. I don't know why I said trying to help.
Malicious, that's the word.
Yeah.
They were malicious to her, and she said, "You're gonna die," and she did.
And you think about all of the different paranormal situations that's occurred with Robert the doll. That's occurred with
Annabelle.
A lot of those. So that's, again, and you gotta think too, this was the 50s. None of the major cases had been out yet. Like the Annabelle doll, right? Yeah. None of that was out yet. That was 70s, wasn't it?
Amityville Horror, 70s. Conjuring House, 70s, 80s.
Yes, yeah. No, I think it was 70s.
70s?
I think late 70s.
Yeah.
People are like, you don't know the dates.
You don't keep them memorized.
To be quite frank, my brain has been so fried because I'm in training for this. Anyways. But, so, yeah. I mean, and you think, too, like, because I asked my grandmother's friend, I was like, because, like, she was born and raised in the Philippines. I asked her, I was like, because I asked her about, like, witchcraft and dark magic over there, like, what that, and she goes, oh, yeah, it's definitely done. A lot of the paranormal stuff, like, she's like, it kind of depends, like, they tell you, oh, don't talk about it, but then at the same time, they also tell you, oh, it very much exists. So, and she has a lot of paranormal stuff that happens to her, too.
There it goes. Test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4. See, now it's working. Okay. For anyone listening, we just had this damn thing we record on say data full, right? Which we didn't fill it up. Battery died again. And then it said kept doing this corrupted data write error thing, which you've never seen before. And now the battery's almost dead again.
And it wasn't until I pushed protection energy that we were able to record. So listen, I don't know. I'm kind of excited to edit this one because
something is really trying. Right, we've had things in the episode. We have episodes in the past that things have tried to stop it from getting out, but this one seemed very adamant about not getting out.
Yeah, this is probably the worst.
So, before we go any longer than we need to, I think one of my final things to say about this case is what we would have done in such a situation, right? For anyone listening to this episode and stuff like that, first episode you ever listened to from us, I would say go listen back to Shadow Walker episodes 1 through 6. So I'm going to explain my ability again, and then listen to Megan's. Well, Shadow Walker part 5 and 6 kind of explain about Megan's abilities as well. But what we would have done would have been very simple and wouldn't have taken 3 days. Wouldn't have taken 1 day. Wouldn't even take 3 hours. It would have taken 30 minutes. That's my record standing for taking something like that out of a location. Now, a possession case, I have no idea. Dad has always said my big final test is to pull a demon out of someone, or at least see if I can. And that's the part where somebody listening right now goes, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Yeah.
I have gone on record claiming, whether anyone listening right now believes it or not, but I have done it and I have receipts for doing it, taking dark entities from locations and imprison them in an object, not just any object, a King Solomon replica ring. I have been doing this for the last 2.5 years. And been successful with it. Like I said, I have receipts. I would say go listen to Dow's story and listen to Mike and Christie's story. Mike and Christie from Unknown Paranormal. And listen to them explain it from their side of how they described how the situation was before and how the situation was after. But I would say the possession case is our final case because we've done a good amount of oppression cases. A good amount of them already. I think 18, 19, I think we're up to now. And all successful. And sometimes it takes 1 to 2 tries, but after that, usually no. Sometimes we miss something the first time around.
Because I feel like a lot of the times, the most dangerous thing is up front, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's even with me, like when I remote view into the case or whatever, like into the location, to be able to explain what's there because we work a lot with Mike and Christy from Unknown Paranormal on these cases. And so I essentially go and I kind of like peek around, remote viewing, kind of figuring out what's at a location or what's at someone's house. And for me, it always shows what the most dangerous thing is up front. Like the first thing I see, and then after Isaac clears it, then I start seeing like other little pieces and stuff like that. But like for me, it's always what is causing the most harm right now and what needs to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So in a situation like this, they would call me to the prison. I would stand in front of Clarita. Granted, I wasn't born in the 50s, so this would be way before my time. But let's say a situation happened today. Grab hold of the demon. At least our theory is anyway of with a possession case, and pull it from the object, which is the person, out of, take it, imprison it, along with its minion. And anything else would be in that prison as well. And
I think we normally do like oppression stuff remotely. Or not like oppression attachments, like that kind of stuff remotely. But I think for a possession case, for sure, at least the first one would have to be in front of the person.
Yes.
Because it's housing that vessel versus just being like attached, if that makes sense.
This is a whole new territory.
Yeah.
Something we never encountered before.
And it's more of a attachment to the person versus like if there's like something in the house or something like that kind of thing.
But as I always say, not to sound egotistical or cocky, just a matter of fact, I have yet to have something stop me when I start to pull. So I doubt there will ever be something to stop me.
He has had difficult stuff, but...
Difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah. So Yeah, with that being said, I thought that was interesting because, with a lot of the other possession cases, there's like grounds for saying it's like a hoax and stuff like that. Almost every possession case I think that they talk about, there's the other side to it, which says it's a hoax. It's more of a mental issue. But even with her, there was hardly any of those claims because, like you said, they couldn't explain the bite marks on the back. Yeah. And they literally, I forgot if it was a doctor or the guard or somebody, but somebody that worked and was like monitoring her went in and actually saw it form on her. Like it wasn't like, oh, these were, she could have done it, bit herself on her arms and stuff like that. It actually showed up in front of her. In front of them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's interesting. And I think it's one of those things that the demonic thing was like, you know what? I'm going to do this because it's terrifying to know something can bite you and you can't even see it, you know? So,
probably feeding on the fear of the doctors and everybody else there in the prison as well.
Yeah.
Kind of heightening everything up.
Yeah, exactly.
From one of our previous cases, that seems to be the MO.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that wraps us up today before the batteries die again.
Yeah. Well, put it to you this way. My phone was at 40% and I haven't had issues with my phone unless we were at investigations. But it went from 40% till right when the battery on the thing was dying, I got a notification, your battery is less than 10%.
Right, and these are cheap ass Dollar General batteries.
Yeah, Dollar Tree, not even Dollar General, Dollar Tree batteries, but still. I don't know, Dollar Tree batteries, I've put in those little, I don't know.
This is not a flashlight.
Yeah, that's true. But so
what are we talking about next week?
So next week,
you forgot already?
I forgot already. Told you my brain is at max capacity.
The Glimmer Man.
Oh yeah, the Glimmer Man.
Or the Shimmer Man.
Yeah, it's been called two things, but basically, I think we talked about it in the Bigfoot episode, and I've talked about it on social media. But the legend that Isaac talked about the
Shimmer / Glimmer Man
that looks like the Predator, basically.
Yeah, because I also saw a video. I think it was on Vine before TikTok, of a guy who was in the woods and had a camera, and he saw something like that. And then he heard a growl, and then all of a sudden you see the camera like drop to the ground, and the guy starts screaming as you hear like something being cut him apart.
Oh my gosh!
Whether it was real or not, I don't know.
I went down a rabbit hole after the Bigfoot episode, and I went down and started looking because I wanted to make a post about it on our social media, and I read some encounter stories that I'm like, what the heck? Because they basically described it as like a heat wave coming off a tree.
Yeah, it's like very Predator-esque.
Yes.
But yeah, look forward to that next week. Also, fun fact, if anyone listening, I was on a podcast recently. I was on IEVP'd My Pants podcast with Mike G.
Yeah.
And his crew of miscreants. Miscreants. But yeah, it was fun. They bring a little comedy to their episodes, and we talked about residual energy and stuff like that, and hauntings and other things surrounding the paranormal. They kind of asked me questions on stuff that I do and some theories that I might have. But yeah, it was a good episode. Yeah, so go check out IEVP'd My Pants podcast.
Yeah,
it was really good. You listen to it, find it anywhere you find podcasts.
Yeah.
So as for us, you can catch our socials at Hidden in the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden in the Shaw 6 on X, Hidden in the Shadows Pod 2 on TikTok. Our links to all social media and always you can listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. And if you're dealing with any kind of cases or dealing with things in your home and need help, easily reach out to us through Hidden in the Shadows Podcast on Instagram or Hidden in the Shadows Paranormal on Instagram as well. Messages through there, email us through the website, however you feel that you can contact with us. But no case too small, no case too big that we can't handle.
Yes.
But as always, we'll catch your weirdos in the next one.
Yeah.